Okay, and may I request John Andres to lead us in this afternoon's prayer.
Okay, let us pray. Lord God, as we gather here to learn and grow, guide us, guide our minds and hearts as we start this class, and grant us wisdom, knowledge, and insights. In this lesson, let our spirit take flight. May understanding meet every words. In this class, let our voices be heard and bless this time we have to share. And it is our prayer. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay, yan. So thank you very much, John. Now, before we formally start our lecture, let's do the roll call. So please say present if you're here. And again, reminders, please turn on your cameras. Okay? Sige. Let's start. Ale Adrian.
Present, ma'am.
Andres John.
Present po, ma'am.
Beliosa Christina.
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Bizarre Karen.
Present po, Doc.
Kahayag Kelvin. Okay. Kasser Naravil. Okay. De Ocampo Gia Marie.
Present po, ma'am.
Digaom Zaira.
Present po, Doc.
Okay. Espadilla Criziel.
Present po, Doc.
Ferniz Marjun. Gabriel Nahar.
Present po, Doc.
Uh, Gian Queen.
Present po, Doc.
Okay. Okay. Granzo Gift.
Present po, Doc.
Lapoha Princess.
Present po, Doc.
Lenogon Shekaina.
Present po, Doc.
Limsan Florence.
Present po, Doc.
Mabayaw Courtney.
Present po, Mabayaw, Doc.
Okay, thank you. Madayag Lexel.
Present po, Doc. Madayag.
Okay, sige. Maglasang Vea.
Present po, Doc.
Mapilindo Jana. Okay, sige. Marial Basil. Nasa
Present po, Doc.
Okay, sige. Thank you. Morilia Earl.
Present po, Morelia po.
Navarez Maria.
Navarez, present po.
Okay. Patak Marilyn. Okay. Pelaez Katrina.
Present po.
Okay. Perez Cynthia.
Present po, Doc.
Clarisan Valent.
Present po, Doc.
Radok Shaila. Okay, noted. Reston Ella. Okay. Senon Missy. Takadena Cheryl.
Nakadena, present po, Doc.
Okay. And Verano Ives.
Present po, Doc.
Okay, sige. Thank you. So, this afternoon, no, since wala pa ta naka-formal class jud sa cytogen, we will start with the introduction to cytogenetics. So, I want you to prepare 1/4 sheet of paper and turn on your cameras. We will be having a pre-test this afternoon. Okay. Sige. Then as you prepare, no, your 1/4, again, please adjust your cameras by way na makita na ako ang inyong desk, no, or your papers. And then, okay, marag na out ko. So, again, no, that I can see your paper and then your face, no. Then, no erasures tayo. Yan. Then, please turn on your cameras, everyone. Okay, sige, let me check if naka-turn on na ba lahat ng camera. Yes, noted. Sige. Okay. Let's begin our quiz this morning. 5 items lang naman. Okay. Number 1. It is a study of inheritance in relation to the structure and function of the chromosomes. Number 1. It is the study of inheritance in relation to the structure and function of the chromosomes. Number 2, it is a thread-like structure of nucleic acids and proteins found in the nucleus of most living cells. Number 2, it is a thread-like structure of nucleic acids and proteins found in the nucleus of most living cells. Number 3, he discovered the living organisms in rainwater, including your protozoa and bacteria. Again, he discovered living organisms in rainwater, including your protozoa and bacteria. Okay, number 4, they successfully photographed the double-stranded DNA. They successfully photographed the double-stranded DNA. So they are actually 3, but we only commonly know of 2 people. Okay. Number 5, he invented the first microscope. He invented the first microscope. Okay, pens up. Okay, pens up, everyone. Sige. What is your answer in number 1?
Cytogenetics po.
Yes, very good. Cytogenetics. Number 2?
Chromosome.
Chromosome po.
Yes, very good. Chromosomes. Number 3 is?
Anton von Leeuwenhoek.
Yes, it's Anton van Leeuwenhoek. Okay, sige. Number 4.
Watson and Crick.
James Watson.
Yes, very good. Watson and Crick. And number 5?
Johnson.
Yes, Hans Janssen. Okay, sige. So who got 5 points? Wow, very good. Very good. Okay, how about 4? Okay? Good job. How about 3? Okay? And the rest, good job pa rin, guys. So, congratulations, everyone. No? So, don't worry. This is a bonus pre-quiz. So, all of you will get 5 points for this. Okay? Sige. Congratulations. Okay? Sige. Let's proceed now with our discussion kasi this afternoon, we will be discussing two topics, no, two basic topics since last week we had one holiday, no? So, naapektuhan tayo ng holiday. And I think, no, next week, from 18 to 23, you will be having the foundation anniversary of Tagum Doctors, right? So, you will be doing asynchronous classes. So, maybe that time, no, we will be, depende sa maigo sa atong klase, no, sa biostat or sa cytogen, I might be giving you parang video lecture lang siya. Okay? So anyways, for the first topic, no, introduction to cytogenetics, these are our agenda. And at the end of the lecture, we are expected to understand and explain the basics of cytogenetics and know and understand the common terms in cytogenetics. We're also expected to pay tribute, no, to our pioneers and their contribution by tracing back a little bit of history. And then it is right for us, no, to differentiate the three study areas of cytogenetics. Okay, beginning with the definition of cytogenetics. Cytogenetics is a science concerned with the structure, the number, and the function of of the chromosomes and its numerous variations and its properties as they relate to transmission, to recombination, and to expression. It is also the study of inheritance, not in relation to the structure and function of our chromosomes. Actually, cytogenetics is a coined term, no, from cytology and genetics. Cytology being the branch of life science, no, that deals with the study of cells, no, in terms of its structure, its function, and even its chemistry. Okay? While genetics is a branch of biology that is concerned naman with the study of genes, its genetic variation, and the hereditary in different organisms. Okay? And of course, no, the star of our subject is none other than our chromosome, no? So as mentioned earlier, it is a thread-like structure of nucleic acids, no, from the DNA and protein, no, from your histone, and they form your nucleosome, and then they carry our genetic information in the form of genes. Okay? Yan siya. So, as every subject starts with history, no, we will also do it in cytogenetics. Actually, no, cytogenetics history traces back before 1590s pa. However, for discussion's sake, no, we will only be talking about those who are written in the book. Actually, ano lang tayo, parang pahapyaw lang, no, because everyone is important in history, but only a few are included, no, also their contributions, no, and we will not be dealing more of them kasi parang more on the what is tayo, no, and the who, no, we will pay tribute to them by remembering their contributions lang, no, and the year that they have contributed it. And since actually madami naman talagang scientists who have contributed a lot in the field of cytogenetics, for exam's sake, just remember those who are highlighted in red. Okay? So, starting off in the year 1590s, no, Janssen or Hans Janssen was the one who invented the first microscope. So, as you can see, no, ito yung ginawa ni Hans Janssen, no? Very, very far na from the microscope that we are enjoying today, di ba? So, it only has a little lens, no, and needle-like na specimen holder, no? Very, very simple, no? And then a decade after, or sorry, a century thereafter, no, Robert Hooke was the one who coined the term cell, no, which is designated for his observation ng hollow spaces surrounding the walls of a cork. And years later, our Anton van Leeuwenhoek was the one who discovered living organisms in rainwater such as your protozoa and bacteria. In our elementary and high school days, Sir Anton van Leeuwenhoek was actually what more popular no for his creation of a 100 power magnification microscope, 'di ba? So parang hindi tayo masyadong siya yung naka-discover ng protozoa at bacteria, hindi, 'di ba? More on the microscope. So this is the single lens na ginawa ni Anton van Leeuwenhoek, 'di ba? Aside sa aesthetically pleasing, no, it actually visualizes minute organisms more than the previous microscope created by Sir Janssen. Okay? Now, in the year 1833, Robert Brown was the one who discovered the nuclei in cells. No? And he was also the one who postulated the Brownian motion. The Brownian motion is also actually termed as your pedesis. No, that is actually just the erratic random movement of microscopic particles, no, in a suspension or in a fluid as a result of continuous bombardment of the different na molecules surrounding it. Okay? Then 5 years later, no, we think Schleiden and Schwann, no, who created or postulated the cell theory. So the cell theory is what we enjoy right now, or the cell theory states no the description of the cell that we basically memorize karon. So, 'di ba, when we were asked or when we are asked what is a cell, then we automatically say that the cell is the basic unit of structure and function of a living organism, 'di ba? So that is because of Schleiden and Schwann's observation and theory. Okay? Then, a year after, Purkinje was the one who discovered the protoplasm. So the protoplasm is actually considered as the physical, tawag nito, parang physical evidence of life, no? And we will discuss this in the next topic, okay? Sige. And in the year 1855, we have Sir Rudolf Virchow, who is actually the father of pathology. And he stated that in his observations, all the cells arise from pre-existing cells by cell division. And in their language, he calls it omnis cellula e cellula. Okay? Sige. Now, in the year 1879 up to the year 1882, Walter Fleming, who is considered as the father of cytogenetics, no, coined the term chromatin and mitosis. So remember that it is not Gregor Mendel na naging father ng cytogenetics, but it is Walter Fleming. And he coined the term chromatin and mitosis. Diba? We know that mitosis is the cell division of somatic cells or non-sex cells. Sige. And in the year 1888, W. Waldeyer was the one who coined the term chromosome. Okay? And in the year 1900s, we have Boveri and Sutton who demonstrated the presence of paired chromosomes in a diploid species. So sila yung nakakita na dalawa pala yung chromosomes in a parent, no, or in a mating individual. Okay? Now in the year 1905, we have Farmer and Moore who coined the term meiosis, no, or the cell division of gametocytes. So, sino nga ang nag-coin ng term na mitosis?
Walter Fleming.
Yes, very good. It's Walter Fleming. Okay, while Farmer and Moore, it's meiosis. And the year after, no, we have the scientist Euler who hypothesized the multiple factor hypothesis, saying no, that the quantitative characters are governed by several genes with small effects that are additive in nature. Meaning the characteristics seen in an individual is actually a product or sum of previous genes no, from previous generation. Okay? In the year 1908, we have Hardy and Weinberg who postulated the Hardy-Weinberg law, which states that the genotypic frequencies are related to the gene frequencies in random mating population. In the year 1909, Johansen coined the term gene. And in the same year, Garrod, our scientist Garrod, wrote a book of inborn errors of metabolism or diseases with enzymatic deficiency, such as your MSUD, G6PD deficiency, and all that. Okay. Then the same year, you have Nilsson and Ellie who explained to us the genetic explanation for inheritance naman ng quantitative traits. Okay? A year later, we have Morgan who established sex-linked inheritance in the eyes of our fruit flies or Drosophila melanogaster. He postulated the chromosomal basis of linkage, and that is why he won the Nobel Prize in the year 1933. Okay? Then, in the year 1927, Mueller, a scientist, was the one who demonstrated that the X-rays that are found in our radiographs are actually mutagenic, meaning it can cause mutation in the set of genes and DNA, which eventually will cause a disease or an illness to the patient. And for that, he won the Nobel Prize in the year 1946. Okay? In 1928, Griffith naman was the one who discovered the transformation of Diplococcus pneumoniae. In the year 1931, we have Crichton and McClintock along with Stern who demonstrated the genetic recombination correlating with exchange of morphological markers on chromosomes, So they were the one, who pioneered genetic recombination, the principle that we enjoy today, that we use in studying different microorganisms and also in using some medications. Okay? In the year 1932, we have Knoll and Ruska who produced the first electron microscope. So we do not have electron microscopes in the laboratories since they are very expensive. And number two, we do not quite need that in our studies as medical technologists. No? They are actually used by our pathologists if they cannot actually decipher the character of the slide that they are looking at using light microscopy. Then that's the time that they will subject the slide or sample to the TEM or SEM, And then in high-level facilities or high-level na science laboratories, they use that as well. Okay? Sige. Now, in the year 1940, we have Oliver who demonstrated another recombination within the lozenge functional unit in fruit flies. Then we have Beadle and Tatum who conceptualized the one gene, one enzyme concept, which led them to win the 1958 Nobel Prize. And in 1944, we have Avery, MacLeod, and McCartney who actually demonstrated or discovered the DNA using the pneumococcal transforming principle. But they were not able to photograph the DNA. Okay? So in the year 1946, we have Lederberg and Tatum who discovered bacterial conjugation, which is a form of sexual reproduction in bacteria. And they in this year also, there was widely use of electron microscope for the study of the cell's ultrastructure. In the year 1950, McClintock was the one who demonstrated that there are transposable elements in maize, and for that he won the 1983 Nobel Prize. Okay, in the year 1952, we have Hershey, the scientist and not the chocolate bar, who won the Nobel Prize of 1969 due to his demonstration of the DNA as a bacteriophage of Titus genetic material. In the same year, we have Zinder and Lederberg, who discovered phage-mediated transduction in bacteria, which is another mode of sexual differentiation in microorganisms. Okay? In the year 1953, Watson and Crick and the other woman, who is actually a female scientist, also known for another scientific contribution, were able to photograph the double-stranded DNA, no? And they were the one who said that the DNA is actually anti-parallel in nature. So, meaning ganito yung shape niya. And they used the Chargaff's rule, no, which states that adenine is always equal to thymine and guanine is always equal to cytosine. No? So, they use it, no, as they further studied the DNA, no? And iba kasi pag sa RNA, di ba, we know that pag RNA yung pinag-uusapan, adenine is always equal to uracil. Okay, and in the year 1955, Benzer wrote the first paper on fine structure of fudge T4R2 locus. Okay, so this is actually the last recorded na history in the book. But up until now, there are a lot of scientists who work hard, for the betterment and improvement of cytogenetics, and also, of course, for further understanding. Okay, now let's talk about the three general areas of genetics. So we have here a table lifted directly from your book, just showing you a list of topics under the three areas of genetics. So you have the classical genetics, molecular genetics, and then the evolutionary genetics. Okay, starting off with the classical cytogenetics. So this area is more commonly or more pressingly concerned with the chromosomal theory of inheritance. And it states here that the genes are located in linear fashion on chromosomes and that the relative positions of genes can be determined by their frequency in their offspring. And the most significant person in this area of cytogenetics is none other than our lolo, Gregor Mendel, who discovered in 1866 the basic rules of genetic transmission by doing what? Controlled experiments on the Pisum sativum or pea plant. No? So he found out that the characteristics of the pea plant or the pea pod, its shape, its fullness, and its color, are actually controlled by a genetic element we all now know as the gene. Okay? And he also discovered that a diploid individual or a mating individual actually contains two sets of chromosomes. No? So, these parents are actually in a diploid state, we say. Kasi nga, dalawa yung copy niya ng chromosome. However, with further division, pag mayroong intercourse, and then the cells of each parent will now have the haploid state, meaning one trait will be passed on to the offspring. One trait from the father and one trait from the mother. Thus, the offspring, the zygote through fertilization will now again have the diploid state. Okay, so we will expound further on that sa next topics natin, Now, the next is the molecular cytogenetics. So, this one focuses naman on the study of genetic material. Its structure, replication, and expression, and even its recombination, and the information revolution regarding the new techniques used to study it. Okay? So, basically, the molecular cytogenetics deals with the central dogma of life. And here is a video that we are to watch. This summarizes the central dogma for us, and this also summarizes half of our semester for us. So, let's enjoy the video.
Here is a cell, the basic unit of all living tissue. In most human cells, there is a structure called the nucleus. The nucleus contains the genome. In humans, the genome is split between 23 pairs of chromosomes. Each chromosome contains a long strand of DNA, tightly packaged around proteins called histones. Within the DNA are sections called genes. These genes contain the instructions for making proteins. When a gene is switched on, an enzyme called RNA polymerase attaches to the start of the gene. It moves along the DNA, making a strand of messenger RNA out of free bases in the nucleus. The DNA code determines the order in which the free bases are added to the messenger RNA. This process is called transcription. Before the messenger RNA can be used as a template for the production of proteins, it needs to be processed. This involves removing and adding sections of RNA. The messenger RNA then moves out of the nucleus into the cytoplasm. Protein factories in the cytoplasm, called ribosomes, bind to the messenger RNA. The ribosome reads the code in the messenger RNA to produce a chain made up of amino acids. There are 20 different types of amino acid. Transfer RNA molecules carry the amino acids to the ribosome. The messenger RNA is read 3 bases at a time. As each triplet is read, a transfer RNA delivers the corresponding amino acid. This is added to a growing chain of amino acids. Once the last amino acid has been added, the chain folds into a complex 3D shape to form the protein.
Okay. So, yan. Let's proceed, no? The third cytogenetic area is our evolutionary genetics, which simply, no, is the study of how change or how time, no, affects, no, gene frequencies in different population. Okay? So again, no, here's a table, no, breaking down all the topics that we are to discuss in half of the semester. And now, upon knowing everything, no, the definition, no, the scope, the history, no, it is right for us also, no, to know why are we studying cytogenetics. Number one, of course, para mapasardok, di ba? Syempre, Chana. But aside from that, of course, no, each science has an actual deeper impact in our society and in our living, no? So aside sa it emanates no how God is so good, no, it also is useful in studying. It is also useful in producing no better products for our consumption. So it is when the plant biology and zoology comes in, no. Cytogenetics plays a part in providing actually no larger and more fertile fruits and vegetables for our consumption, and even larger um produce, no, like chicken na meat or fish, like that. Kasi in this day and age, 'di ba, our population is increasing. So you would expect that the food supply will really go down. So if you've been to Guimaras, no, they offer actually tag nito, island hopping sa Alubihod na beach, no? And then one of the destination is the Sif Deck na area. So the Sif Deck, guys, is actually an agency of biologists, no, marine biologists in particular, who study fishes, no, on how they can produce better fish for our consumption. Kasi if you go there, no, you will be amazed that you can see mga um ito, bangus, 'di ba, is this small lang. So, they have bangus that's as big as parang ano na, 3 to 5 times the usual size, no? And then lapu-lapu dagko kaayo, no, the sea cucumber na Korea peas, no, they have it there large and long. So we asked them, why did you create such or why did you manipulate the animals or fishes to be as big as this? So the reason being for better consumption of the population in the near future, because they believe daw na if we produce larger animals or larger fishes, we will buy less. And we'll buy less because what we bought is actually okay na for either for the entire family or for how many servings. So less pero malalaki, it will save us some time and it will actually help us na ma-okay ang ating food supply. So yun yung kanilang So another of course, cytogenetics plays in the hybridization and transgenism of plants, and it is also very important so that our scientists can improve our food quality and provide for us insect and herbicide resistant plants. If these are pushed through, actually this will be very beneficial for our farmers. One is that they are saved from the exposure to sprays or chemical sprays, because these chemical sprays they are actually carcinogenic, and at the same time it will yield matinggas na pagtubas, as they say in the radio. Okay? But of course, we are not biologists and we are medical technologists. We are concerned more of the medical applications of cytogenetics. So, cytogenetics are very, very important so that we can identify and detect the numerical chromosomal abnormalities in a pediatric patient and oncologic patient, kasi we have to know the what so that we can cure it or at least manage it well. Same way we can detect structural chromosomal abnormalities. And in the US kasi very very prominent on genetic testing and counseling. Sa atin not much. We have that, I think, sa UPPGH or sa St. Luke's Medical Center or even the UST Hospital, wherein it will cost you a fortune, but they use it during prenatal diagnosis sa mga buntis, or yung iba sa mga cancer patients natin, kasi we know that cancer is hereditary. So you have to counsel the family members that one way or another they might have or this type of cancer or other type of cancer might occur due to the inheritance. So for preparedness and prevention actually din siya. So sa prenatal diagnosis natin, we actually sample amniotic fluid and then subject that to the chemical testing kit, and then after a week or so makukuha na siya. Sa US kasi before legal yung abortion. So when they find out that their baby is actually a trisomy baby or aneuploidy baby, they actually opt to abort it. They're given the option to abort it. Very sad, but yun dun sa kanila. But we thank God na hindi ganyan dito sa atin. Okay? Sige. So, this is the end of our first lecture. And I will leave you with this, a verse from Colossians 3:23. Guys, whatever you do, work at it with all of your heart, as working for God and not for men.
Amen.
Remember that you only have an audience of one. So whatever you do it for the Lord. And the Lord will carry you all throughout. Okay? Sige. So we will proceed with our next lecture. It's about the cells. Okay? So let me just give you a 10-minute break siguro. Sige, 10 minutes break. And then, just do not log out from the meeting. Nawala na ko. Background na lang nakita sa ko. Ang ngit-ngit na kayo. Sige, anyways. So do not leave the meeting room lang. Just turn off your cameras, as you do your thing. Siguro you can pee, you can eat your snacks, then be back at 2:40. Okay? Sige. Thank you. Okay, let's continue our discussion. Are you still with me? Please turn on your cameras.
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, sige. Yan. So let us continue our discussion this afternoon with the cell. Very basic, no? I know that sabi yung memorize na ninyo ang cell. But anyways, let's have a quick review about this. So, can you remember who postulated the cell theory and gave us the definition of cell that we use today? Do you remember? Sino-sino sila? Botanists and zoologists?
Si Squan po, o si Scriden po.
Very good. Now we have Schleiden and Schwann. Okay? So you know, guys, there are 100 trillion cells in our bodies. No? And each of the cells, no, as the song says, every single cell in my body is happy, diba? And every single cell in my body is well. So let's keep it that way. No, so you know these cells actually function to provide support and structure for the body's tissues and organs. It is also responsible for the ingestion of nutrients and converting these nutrients to energy. And then they are also useful in performing specialized function that allows us not to really be well, no? And for our individual organs to function. And then, of course, our cells contain our hereditary code. Now, let's talk about no, the components of a cell. Components of a cell, starting off with the protoplasm. So, as you remember, back in scientists discovered the protoplasm. The protoplasm actually is a collective term for all the substances that are inside the cell. No, it is also known to be the physical basis for life. And we have 5 substances that make up our cell's protoplasm. Number 1, we have the water. We also have the ions, no, proteins, the lipids, and then the carbohydrates, no. The water, of course, is the principal fluid medium present in most cells, comprising 70 to 85% of the cell mass. No? The water is very important because it is where chemical reactions take place. No? And it is used to suspend no, the different organelles composing the cell. No? Then we have the ions. So the ions are organic materials that are very useful for cellular reactions and interactions and are necessary for cellular control mechanisms. Now, what ions do we have? Now, we have ions kasi that are intracellular and extracellular. So, the most prominent ions we have inside the cell or the intracellular ions include your potassium, your magnesium, your phosphate, sulfate, and then your bicarbonates. So sodium chloride and calcium are extracellular ions no, that are in small amounts naman inside the cell. Okay? So next, no, we have the proteins, which are the second most abundant component of protoplasm. So it actually accounts for 10 to 20% of cellular mass, and they are divided into 2 types. We have the structural proteins and then we have the functional proteins. So the structural proteins are present in the cell mainly in the form of long filaments or fibrils, no? Filamentous or fibrillar proteins which becomes our microtubules to provide for the cytoskeleton of the cell and the cellular organelles. So these cytoskeletons can either become your cilia, it can be found in your nerve axons, and even the mitotic spindles in dividing cells. Okay? Yan siya. No? And it is also the one who holds organelles in the cytoplasm and then in the nucleoplasm. Okay? Next type of proteins are your functional proteins that are entirely different from the structural proteins. Now, these functional proteins are tubular and globular in shape, and they act as enzymes inside the cell and are often mobile within the fluid. No? So, hindi kasi siya as rigid, no, as your cytoskeletons kasi hindi naman siya mainly for support. So, they actually, no, these proteins as enzymes come into direct contact with other substances inside the cellular fluid, no, and they catalyze specific intracellular chemical reactions. Okay? Then, we also have inside our cell, no, inside the cytoplasm. So, they're together, there are actually several types of it that are grouped together because they are insoluble to water, no? These lipids are actually important, no, in providing for the barrier ng ating cell. And it constitutes 2% of our total cell mass. Okay? And siya. Some lipids also include glyceride, which is actually our neutral fat, is a reserve energy, no, ang triglycerides. Then we have the carbohydrates, which are little structural function in the cell. Which has little structural function inside the cell, but a major role in the cellular nutrition. No, most of the cells do not contain large amounts of carbohydrates, nasa 1% lang, and sometimes it goes up to 3 to 6% depending on the location. 3% if nasa muscle cell, and 6% of carbohydrates are found in your hepatocyte or liver cell. Okay? And it's just for ng ating energy needs. Okay? Cells are nice physical structure, you know, starting off with our outermost covering, which is the cell membrane. The cell membrane is primarily composed of lipids and proteins, but as you can see, no, here in the slide, you have the composition, no, broken down in percentages, no, ng ating cell membrane components. Our cell membrane is also termed as our plasma membrane, and it envelopes our cell. It is thin, it is pliable, and is an elastic structure. Okay? So our cells or cell membrane are composed of 55% proteins, which we will discuss later. 25% of it are phospholipids, no, which are the most abundant lipid type, no, in the cell membrane. So these phospholipids, no, are actually bilayer. So parang dalawa siya. No, as you can see in this GIF, this is a phospholipid, no. It contains a phosphate head and a fatty acid tail. So the phosphate head, no, being the hydrophilic between the two, meaning it loves water, and the fatty acid end is the hydrophobic one. So it fears water, no, from the term itself. Meaning, if makapass through man ang water sa head, it will not push through sa body. Okay? Kasi nire-repel siya ng ating fatty acids. Okay? Yan siya. Okay, so we also have 13%, no, cholesterol, no, mainly for the determination of permeability degree ng ating cell, no, or ating cell membrane. Also, our cholesterol is the one that controls the fluidity ng ating lipid bilayer kasi naka-embed siya within it. Okay? So, we also have 4%, no, ng lipids or sphingolipids, which are actually derived from our amino alcohol, which is the sphingosine. And you can see this mostly in the neural ends, no, or nerve cells, no. It actually helps us in protecting the cell from harmful, specifically the neurons, no, from harmful environmental factors, useful actually for signal transmission and transduction, and is useful for adhesion, no, in sites for extracellular proteins. Okay? Yan siya. So, our cell membrane is well known for its lipid bilayer and fluid mosaic model. And it is called as such because we have peripheral proteins, no, nakastud sa kanila. No? So, that is why, ano siya, parang mosaic type siya when you parang see it in the aerial view. Parang ganun. No? It's not the cholesterol, but rather it's the proteins, no? The peripheral proteins. Okay? So, ayun, no? We have here, no? The proteins, two types of proteins naman that we can see in our cell membrane. So, we have the integral proteins and we have the peripheral proteins, as I've mentioned. No, the integral proteins protrudes all the way, no, from all the way in the lipid bilayer. It provides no pores as structural channels through which the water molecules or water soluble molecules pass through, no? So, yan. Then they also provide as, or they also become our channels, no, that has selective properties allowing preferential diffusion and may act as our carrier proteins. They also serve as receptors, no, either voltage gated or ion gated, no, nagiging channel siya natin and nagiging receptor din. Then we have the peripheral proteins by which you can see naka-attach lang siya sa ating integral proteins. Okay? So this peripheral proteins actually just function as our enzyme. So you can review that sa biochemistry, no? Kasi may mga ano yan siya, GTP, mga ganyan-ganyan. So those are our peripheral proteins. Okay? Now let's go to the carbohydrates, no, which comprises a little less than 3% of the total cell mass or in the cell membrane. No, so these carbohydrates actually function as our glycocalyx. So they are known to be the cellular glycocalyx. So it functions, no, to give cell an overall negative surface charge. Then it allows attachment of one cell to another, and it acts also as a substance, the receptor substance, and is also also useful in immune reactions. Can you give me a minute? I'll be back lang ha. Wait lang talaga. Okay, thank you very much. No, so going back, no, we say na the cellular or the glycocalyx or the cellular carbohydrates, so they become attachments of our other substances as well. So lipids and other proteins can actually attach in them, and then change yung name nila for every attachment that they have. So say for example, the carbohydrates kasi nagkakaroon siya ng prefix na glyco. So pag naka-attach ang protein sa kanya, we call that now glycoprotein. Pag yung lipid naman yung naka-attach, it's glycolipid. Okay? Sige. Yan. So next one, no, is our cytoplasm. We know, no, that the cytoplasm is a jelly-like fluid filled with both minute and large dispersed particles and organelles. It is not entirely water, but rather it is jelly-like, no, for proper suspension ng ating organelles and other substances. Okay? So it contains mainly dissolved proteins, no, electrolytes, and even glucose, no. Then you can find there, no, neutral fat globules, no, then your glycogen granules, your ribosomes, your secretory vesicles, and the organelles. So these are your organelles that are embedded in your cytosol. Okay, so let's talk about the 5 organelles or 5 important organelles that you can see in the cytoplasm. Starting off with our endoplasmic reticulum. Now, this image right here shows you a network of network of both tubular and flat, no, na vesicular structures. So the flat structure right here that are studded with your ribosomes or granules are your granular ER or your rough endoplasmic reticulum. So these studs right here are actually your ribosomes, no? Your ribosomes that contain both your RNA and proteins that functions to synthesize proteins, no? New proteins. And they also process, no, mga old proteins din. So the next one you see here is your smooth endoplasmic reticulum, which is a tubular structure that does not contain ribosomes, no. It is mainly, no, for the synthesis of lipid substances naman. Okay? Yan siya. Okay, sige. Next, we have the Golgi apparatus. So the Golgi apparatus is commonly known as our packaging complex of the cell or packaging center of the cell. So come to think of it as your JNT hub. Okay? So remember that structurally, no, your Golgi apparatus is composed of more than 4 stacked layers of thin, flat, and enclosed vesicles, no, lying near the side of the nucleus. Kasi nucleus, then rough ER or ER, and then after the ER, you have your Golgi apparatus. Kasi, di ba, your nucleus, no, may transcription, then ita-translate niya, then the proteins, no, will come from the transport, will bud off exocytosis papunta sa so remember ang yung ating cell itong mga natin ng mga should be or products to wear. So the organelle that we have here is the rhizome. Now, your lysosome is also a vesicular organ, meaning it is membrane bound, no, that form membrane of apparatus and disperses throughout the cytoplasm. So as you can see, di ba, mga nagbabud off dito secretory vesicles, some of those are actually lysosomes as well. Lysosomes are known to be your intracellular digestive system or your suicide bag of the cell. It is called as such because within it, no, you have your hydrolase enzyme, no. Your hydrolase enzyme, no, they are the enzyme what breaks down, no, all the substances sa loob. So, it can just tunawin niya yung mga bacteria, no, yung mga sirang organelles or yung mga old organelles, no, mga ubiquitous na mga proteins or mga proteins na mga hindi na necessary. So they are the one, no? Sila yung mga sweeper natin na nililinis ng mga kalat within the cell. And it keeps the cell and the body healthy. Okay? And remember na kaya siya vesicular bound or vesicular kasi the digestive enzyme or hydrolase cannot leak out of the cell. Kasi it will be the end of the cell once that enzyme leaks out. Okay? Kaya meron tayong mga lysosomal storage disease, no? Which are actually quite lethal, no? And actually very, very rare lang naman. Hopefully, we can touch on them sa mga next topics natin. I think mga nasa finals na. So that you will just have idea of it, no? Sige. So just remember, no, lysosomes, yan, suicide bag of the cell. Then we have the peroxisomes, which are physically similar to our lysosomes. But remember their difference kasi they are both used interchangeably. So your peroxisomes, no, are actually, although the same, physically the same with your lysosomes, they're quite smaller. And as compared to your lysosomes, which bud off from your Golgi apparatus, your peroxisomes are actually self-formed, no, or formed by self-replication. And some also believe that peroxisomes bud off from your smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Also remember that the major difference between the two is their enzyme content. If your lysosome contains what enzyme gani? It's your?
Digestive enzyme po.
Yes, which is, tawag natin doon is?
Hydrolase.
Yes, hydrolase. Your peroxisome naman, it contains oxidases. And since iba sila na enzyme, iba din sila na function. Your oxidases are majorly for the catabolism of your long-chain fatty acids. Remember that, ha? Kasi it's also a good exam question. So remember, oxidases are for peroxisomes, hydrolases are for your lysosomes. Okay? Sige. Then we have the secretory vesicles, no, which are formed by the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus system. Ito. Itong mga riders natin. Yan. These are our secretory vesicles. Okay? Yan siya. These are actually more abundant in cells, no, with hypersecretory function or kahit secretory function lang, such as your pancreas, no, your thyroid, mga ganyan. Okay? And of course, no, we will not forget the powerhouse of the cell, which is the mitochondria. So this is present in all areas of the cell cytoplasm, and they are concentrated in portions of cells that are responsible for the major share of energy metabolism. So remember that your mitochondria, no, they increase in number in areas or organs that consume more energy. So sino yung maraming trabaho? Siya yung may maraming mitochondria. So say for example sa heart, no, hindi lang isang mitochondria ang meron tayo sa isang cell. No, for example sa ating heart, no, our heart cells, no, since the heart functions to pump blood all throughout the body and always at work siya, you would expect that there are a lot of mitochondria. And some textbooks say that you have at least 35 mitochondria in one heart cell. Okay? And yun lang man siya ang dapat nyong matandaan. Tandaan din ninyo na the mitochondria, di ba dito, kaya siya tinatawag na powerhouse of the cell. It's because it is where ATP, no, our energy substance, is formed. Okay? And please take a look at this image. No? This shows you a simplified, no, basic structure of our mitochondria. So as you can see, the mitochondria is capsule-like and it contains the outer membrane and the inner membrane that contains your cristae. No, these are enfoldings, no, by which, no, the enzymes enter and perform their function. Okay? Sa biochemistry, you know that the electron transport chain, nangyayari siya sa loob ng mitochondria. Okay? Sige. So next, no, we have the cytoskeleton. We briefly discussed this earlier because the cytoskeletons are actually our structural proteins, no? Fibrillar and filamentous proteins that package themselves into microtubules, no, and then uh, shaped to become the thing or the cytoskeleton that a portion of the cell needs it to be. So it functions again to provide physical structure, to participate in cell division by way of producing mitotic spindles, diba? It allows the cells to move, such as your cilia and the flagella in your sperm. Then it also provides a tract-like stem for the whole cell. Okay, so please remember this table. This is a very good source of exam questions as well, or quiz questions. So the difference between a prokaryote and a eukaryote. So eukaryotic cells are usually found in animals, no, and plants, while your prokaryotic cells are usually seen in your bacteria and other microorganisms. So of course, eukaryotic cells are bigger and more complete in organelles as compared to your prokaryotes. Remember that your prokaryotes do not have a nucleus, while your eukaryotes contain one nucleus, no, or depende what type of cell structure. Yeah. It may have no flagella, depende on no, then yung cell sa eukaryotes, pag animal, pag plants, you have it. No? So just remember, no, this table, you can take a screenshot of it, no? So the eukaryotic cells divided by mitosis and meiosis, your prokaryotes, no, they divide by or they can have a conjugation as well. Okay? And of course, the mastermind of all, the control center of the cell, our nucleus. We know that it contains genes that determine the characteristics of the cell and cell's protein, and it controls and promotes cellular reproduction. So let's talk about the parts of the cell briefly. No, the nucleus kasi is not just a physical in the cell. Your nucleus actually is composed of the vesicle, no, and a nucleolus within it. So your nucleus is a highly staining structure that is delimited by membranes, and it contains your RNAs. Kaya when you see it, it's stage or vantage. Then, you also have the nucleoplasm or parang cytoplasm siya, no? Jelly-like suspension pa din within it. Then, it is bounded by the nuclear membrane. But the difference between the nuclear membrane and the cell membrane is that it contains your pores, no? Meron siyang pores na pwedeng daanan kasi ng mga substances to and from the nuclei. Okay? Sige. Yan siya. This is showing you, no, the old structure of a nucleus under TEM or electron microscope. This is the you see that the nuclear membrane, you know, is actually for nuclear pore complex. So ito for very so as mentioned, is the genetic material, no? And the genetic material or chromosomes is actually composed of nucleic acids and proteins, diba? As we mentioned in the earlier slide. So the nucleic acids in the form of DNA, actually, if you stretch it all out, it will account to one football field. But the Lord loves us so much that what He did is He packaged His DNA, no, parang gipalibot niya ang atong DNA, gipos niya using a histone protein. No? So, that is why ingon ani na siya. And then, nagpapack siya because there is a linker histone as well. Ito yung histone protein natin. Actually, apat sila. No? You have that, apat sila that is composed of 8 histone molecules. Say, 2 copies of each, parang ganun. No? So, you have H2A, H2B, H3, and H4. The next one, or the H1, is the linker histone na tinatawag natin. Siya yung responsible na nagdidikit-dikit sila, no? And also na mas mahigpit niya ang makapalibot sa histones. Okay? Then, eventually, no, pag na-package na sila, na-link na sila together, it will form loops until sa it can form the chromatin. No? The chromatin, remember, is characterized depending on its activity. It is called heterochromatin pag ano siya, inactive. And you know that it is inactive kasi sa staining mo, you will see darkly stained na material. Kasi nga, tightly packed ang chromatin mo. But if it is active, no, you can have euchromatin. So the euchromatin, no, actively synthesizing yan siya, and then lightly staining siya actually sa inyong slides. Okay? Eventually, form our chromosome. So, two chromosomes, no, that bound by a centromere at the center. Okay? Yes. Sige. So, now we have the cell cycle. No? Konti na lang, guys. Konti na lang man siya. So, the cell cycle, we know this actually since elementary, di ba? You have 4 stages or phases na kailangan na malagpasan. First off, being the growth 1 stage, which is the longest, no, and most variable period. So, during the G1 phase kasi, it is where, no, cells accumulate enzymes and nucleotides that are required for our DNA synthesis, no, para sa S phase. Then, pag na-comply na yun lahat, most of them undergo S phase, no, or the DNA replication. Then, mga nasa 8 hours yan siya, no, approximately. Then, you will proceed with G2, which is a preparation for mitosis. Then, eventually, there will be cell division, no, mitosis, very, very quick lang, nasa 3 hours. So, one cell cycle is actually happening for approximately 24 to 36 hours. Okay? Yan siya. So, syempre, no, once you are running a cycle, kailangan meron tayong checkpoint. Especially, no, that you are synthesizing something. You are creating a product. And you want your product to be the best and not defective, right? So, God gave us checkpoints in the cell cycle, no, by the action of your kinases. So your cyclins, no, and cyclin-dependent kinases. But anyways, no, what I really want you to know regarding this is that there are checkpoints that allow us, no, to check and balance if okay pa ba tayo to proceed with the cell cycle. Yun lang naman. So do not concern yourself with all these cyclins and stuff. Okay? But eto lang siya. So the cell cycle checkpoint actually begins just at the start of the DNA synthesis phase. So di ba G1, nag-accumulate pa siya ng nucleotides, enzymes, and all that. Before siya papasok sa S phase, there will be a checkpoint here that has, no, are the cell nutrition, yung environment ba na cell favorable? Intact ba lahat ng DNA? Kasi hindi intact ang DNA tsaka na-synthesize mo yan, kulang-kulang. Do you think, di ba, ano siya, ma-produce ba siya ng tama? Syempre, di ba, hindi. So, that is why, tatanungin mo na bago mag-proceed. Okay? And then, next natin is ang ating G2, no? After na na-synthesize na, before we proceed with mitosis, no, we will be asked, complete pa kaya yung DNA na na-replicate ko? Diba? So if yes, then proceed with the mitosis. And during the mitosis, before tayo makaka-create ng 2 daughter cells, no, they will ask, no, okay pa ba yung DNA? Intact pa ba? Yung chromosomes naka-attach pa ba sa mitotic spindle? Kasi kailangan dispersed na siya bago tayo mag-proceed. Okay? So, yun lang yung point. Para check nila, okay pa ba tayo yung process natin? And if yes, no, it will proceed, no, and it will give you 2 daughter cells. Okay? So, yan lang siya. no? So, andito naman tayo sa cell cycle. After, di ba, ng synthesis natin ng DNA, after ng G2, we have mitosis, no? Or meiosis. So, first, let us watch this video, no? Regarding mitosis. Okay? Wait lang, kasi hindi pala siya mag-play within the, ano. Wait lang. Guys.
Mitosis. In this module, we will learn about mitosis is the process of separation and possible regeneration. To elaborate, mitosis is the separation of nuclear chromosomes from the nuclei. It is divided into 4 key phases: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. An additional phase called cytokinesis occurs after the complete nuclear division. Before a dividing cell enters mitosis, it undergoes a period of growth and rest. This period is called interphase. In interphase, the genetic material of a cell increases. Prophase. During prophase, the chromatin condenses and becomes short and thick to form chromosomes. Each chromosome consists of chromates absent the nucleus, the chromosomes, each of the centrioles move apart to the opposite poles between them. Metaphase. During metaphase, tubules of the spindle interact with chromosomes. These chromosomes move and align along the middle of the cell or the equatorial end. This crosses the centromere, informing the presence of protein structures called kinetochore at the surface. The kinetochore holds the chromosome and attaches them to the spindle. Anaphase. During anaphase, the sister chromatids separate at the kinetochores, and the daughter chromosomes, along with the divided centromere, move towards the opposite poles as the microtubule shortens. The poles of the spindle also move apart and help to separate the chromosomes. As the chromosomes separate completely into 2 sets, one at each pole, anaphase is considered complete. Telophase. During telophase, the daughter chromosomes arrive at the pole and the chromatin starts to decoil. Also, the nuclei reform along with nucleoli. This triggers the reformation of the nuclear membrane. Cytokinesis. Cytokinesis is the partition of the cytoplasm. In animals, a cleavage furrow appears in the plasma membrane, which deepens and divides the cytoplasm into 2 cells, each containing a nucleus. In plants, new cell wall formation is triggered at the center of the cell by the formation of a cell plate. The cell plate grows outwards till it meets the existing wall, resulting in 2 daughter cells. In this module, you have learned mitosis is the process of separation of nuclear chromosomes into 2 identical daughter nuclei. Mitosis involves 4 key phases: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. In prophase, the chromatin condenses and becomes short and thick to form the chromosomes. In metaphase, microtubules of the spindle interact with the chromosomes.
In anaphase, the sister chromatids separate out at the centromere and move towards the opposite poles as the microtubule becomes shorter.
Okay, sige. So, I hope no that mitosis was clear with you as we watched the video. Very elaborate naman yung explanation niya. And what I want you to remember no in this parang part of the cell cycle is that you have to know in which phase of mitosis nag-occur yung mga synapses. Kumbaga, what are the activities no during each phase of mitosis. So as you can see no, parang ito no, ano yung tawag nito? Ano nangyayari yung chromosome? Ano nangyayari sa chromosome, sa centromere, no? Pag ganun, saan nangyayari yung formation of mitotic spindles, no? Ganito, ganyan. So, yan lang siya. And this slide, no, is actually, again, lifted from our patho book, but I just want you to see, no, this is how it looks like under the microscope. Commonly, pag mga ganito, may activity yan sa laboratory na pinapahanap sa inyo yung different phases of mitosis, no? And our sample na commonly used is actually the onion, no? Kasi mas obvious siya doon. Okay? So, this is just an electron microscopy image, no, of our mitotic spindle. And these are our centrosome right here. Okay? Now, let's proceed with meiosis, no, or the cell division of our sex cells. Okay, so we will again watch another video. Sige.
Many organisms pass their genes to their offspring through sexual reproduction. This begins when two gametes unite to form an embryo that is genetically unique from the parent organisms. The embryo then grows into an adult who in turn passes their genetic information on to their own offspring. Gametes are formed through a process called meiosis. The cells that undergo meiosis to produce the gametes are called germline cells. In diploid organisms, germline cells have two copies of each chromosome. Germline cells undergo meiosis to produce haploid gametes, which only have one copy of each chromosome. These haploid gametes fuse to form a diploid embryo that grows into the adult. Meiosis is just one step in the life cycle of a germline cell. Similar to mitosis, the cells also pass through the interphase, G1, S, and G2 stages before they enter meiosis. The DNA inside a germline cell is duplicated before meiosis begins during the S phase. The duplicated germline chromosomes are called sister chromatids. These chromatids remain attached to each other until the second cell division event in meiosis. There are two cell division events during meiosis. The first division, meiosis 1, results in two unique daughter cells that have half the amount of DNA as the parent germline cell. The second division, meiosis 2, results in 4 unique haploid cells that only have one copy of each chromosome. These haploid cells are the gametes that could go on to produce an offspring through sexual reproduction. Let's look more closely at each of the division events. Meiosis begins with prophase 1. In this stage, the DNA condenses to form chromosomes. Here we see the duplicated sister chromatids joined together at the centromere. They stay fused at the centromere throughout meiosis 1. Next, each pair of homologous chromosomes undergoes synapsis to form a complex involving two pairs of sister chromatids. Chromosomal material is exchanged between the two pairs of sister chromatids. This event is called recombination, or more commonly, crossing over. After crossing over, the sister chromatids for each chromosome are no longer identical to one another. This is one of the reasons why no two siblings, aside from twins, are genetically identical. There are several more key steps in prophase 1. The nuclear membrane begins to break down. Then, the two centrosomes migrate to opposite ends of the cell and microtubules appear. The microtubules then attach to the chromosomes. The next phase of meiosis 1 is called metaphase 1. Here, the synapsed chromosomes align at the equator of the cell. The chromosomes align randomly, which results in different combinations each time meiosis occurs. The next phase is anaphase 1. During this phase, homologous chromosomes separate and migrate to the two poles of the cell. Importantly, the sister chromatids remain attached at their centromeres. The final steps of meiosis 1 are telophase 1 and cytokinesis. Here, the cell divides into two daughter cells. Each of these two cells now undergo meiosis 2. Meiosis 2 is similar to mitosis. The first stage of meiosis 2 is prophase 2. Again, chromosomes condense, the nuclear envelope breaks down, and the spindle apparatus forms. The major difference between prophase 2 and prophase 1 is the fact that the daughter cells have only one copy of each homologous chromosome. So in prophase 2, there is no synapsis of homologous chromosomes or crossing over. In metaphase 2, the chromosomes align at the equator of the cell. Again, the alignment is random. Since the sister chromatids are no longer identical, there will be many different possible ways for these chromosomes to align. In anaphase 2, the sister chromatids are pulled apart as the microtubules shorten. Also, the ends of the cell are pushed farther apart as microtubules elongate. In telophase 2, the nuclear membrane reforms and the cytoplasm is divided into the two haploid daughter cells. This division is called cytokinesis. Since meiosis 2 began with 2 cells, and each of those cells were split into 2 cells, we now have 4 unique haploid cells at the end of meiosis. These cells are gametes. 2 gametes, one from a father and one from a mother, may fuse to produce a diploid embryo. The resulting embryo then grows through many cycles of mitosis.
The electron transport chain is a series of protein complexes embedded in the mitochondrial membrane. Electrons captured from donor molecules are transferred to these complexes. Coupled with this transfer is the pumping of hydrogen ions. This pumping generates the gradient used by the ATP synthesis to synthesize ATP. The following complexes are found in the electron transport chain.
Okay, lumampas ang ating video. Sige. Anyways, no, I hope that meiosis was clear with you. Same lang, no, just to be familiar with what is going on, no, during meiosis and its difference, no, from mitosis, no, and the difference ng meiosis 1 sa meiosis 2. Ano ba yung mga hindi included sa meiosis 2 na done na sa meiosis 1? So this is a very good illustration, no, lifted from your book of what happens during meiosis. Okay, so I will not reiterate it, no, but I will send you also the video links for you to review it, rewatch it. Okay? Sige. Yan siya. So, do you have any questions or violent reactions? Hopefully, walang violent reactions. But any clarifications with our topics this afternoon? Okay, anyone? Wala na? Clarifications or anything? Klaro lang? May naintindihan din kayo sa topics natin this afternoon? Okay, thank you. Expect ko na yan sa next quiz natin. Perfect nyo, no? Sisiyo. Ano? Sige. Okay, so if you do not have any questions, I guess let's call it a day. Stay safe, stay dry, everyone, and I'll see you on our next meeting. God bless.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you po, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.